Welcome. This is a practice that focuses on some balance work. And so, having a couple of blocks or even a dining room chair could be very helpful in working towards some of these single leg balance postures that we're going to be looking at today, which are Warrior Three and Ardha Chandrasana or Half Moon Pose. And so if you have your props, go ahead and place them off to the side of your mat. We're going to start in child's pose with the hands forward. And so come to find yourself in a wide knee child's pose, toes together, knees apart. Reach the hands forward and allow the forehead to come down onto the floor. And if the forehead doesn't come down onto the floor with ease, you can bend the elbows and stack the fists underneath the forehead, or take one of your blocks and place it under your forehead as an alternative. We want this first child's pose particularly to be a place where you can relax and drop the weight of your physical as well as your energetic body into some support. You also might find that the ankles are being asked to lengthen, and for some, that can be a little challenging. Also, the knees are being asked to fold. And so just kind of notice for yourself, are there barriers to child's pose, which, granted, yoga teachers often take an assumption that this is a really restful pose, and for some, it's not. And so you may need to put some support underneath your pelvis, like a cushion or a pillow or a blanket, right? It's always interesting to find your own kind of creative modifications to make some of these poses that come in and out of yoga practices that are considered restful, more restful for your particular body. And so from child's pose, take a couple of full breaths. The reason why we have the knees wide is so that the belly has room to expand and recede as you breathe in and out. And with the hands forward, there's an opportunity to breathe into the sides of the rib cage, expanding not only the lungs and the ribs, but also the muscles of kind of the mid-back. On an exhale, start to walk your hands over to the right. If you have your hands underneath your forehead, you're still going to walk your hands over to the right. We're all going to take our heads to the right and come into a side bending child's pose. And as you come into a side bending child's pose, see if you can reach out through the left arm or the left kind of shoulder, and then reach back through the left hip and sit bone. Right? If you can imagine someone giving you a hands-on adjustment where one of their hands is kind of on your left shoulder blade and the other is on your right hip, and they're really gently gliding those two parts of your body apart from one another. And then staying in the right side bend, you can either stay here if you're kind of really enjoying this and want some more time. Alternatively, you can walk your right arm over your left arm, so you're crossing it over, and try to peek your gaze up and underneath your right arm, coming into a little bit of a twist. If that feels really comfortable and accessible and you want to take it one step further, we're going to take that top right arm into a half bind. And so you'll lift it up, internally rotate the hand, and then sweep the hand behind you across the left back hip, and kind of maybe using that hand to now ground the left hip down and back away from your head. And take a couple breaths. If you have the bind, start to unwind. So the hand sweeps down across the pelvis to the right side. It starts to reach up to the ceiling. It uninternally rotates or it externally rotates, comes to the floor overhead, and then uncrosses the left arm so that you can walk your entire upper torso over to the left. And we'll go to the other side. So we're in a left side bend. You're reaching your right arm long and out away from a right hip that is reaching down and back away from your belly. And then either choose to stay here or start to take your left arm, cross it up and over your right arm, start to peek your gaze underneath your left armpit. And as you find this bit of a twist, right, this is a pretty kind of tight space. And so it may not be your greatest and most full twist ever, but you might notice where you feel this twist occurring and if that is surprising or if that is something that you anticipated. And then perhaps take the left arm into a bind. So the left arm reaches up towards the ceiling, internally rotates, the hand slides behind the pelvis, maybe all the way over to the right hip. And then the arm unbinds if it's there. So it slides across to the left. It derotates. It comes back to the floor overhead. And then walk yourself to the center of your mat. Come onto hands and knees and start working through your cat and your cow. So you'll inhale into your cow spine, arching your back. Belly goes down, tail and chest move up. And then exhale, cat spine, round the back. Head drops down towards the floor, tail drops down towards the floor, mid back puffs upwards towards the ceiling or the sky. Inhale, cow spine. Exhale, cat spine. And then completing a few more rounds in this cat and cow, starting to wake up the undulation of your spine between these two ends, right? The full forward bend of the spine and the full backward bend of the spine. And then the next time that you find an inhale come to a neutral spine, so halfway between cat and cow, and without changing your spinal position, right? No back bending, no forward bending. See if you can activate the low abdominal muscles as if they're hugging up against the low abdominal organs. And so in neutral, you're activating this lower abdominal wall. You're going to keep that, reach your right leg back into a half plank. Keep the foot on the ground. Reach your left arm forward. You're balancing on your left knee and your right hand. And then if you choose, you can float your right leg up off the ground so that you are parallel to the floor with your right leg, your torso, and your left arm without rotating, right? So making sure that the pelvis is square to the floor. And then on an exhale, gently lower your right foot down. You're going to turn the heel down to the floor, coming into a modified side plank. So you've got your right foot down and straight. Your left knee is on the ground. You're going to turn your chest open to the right and reach your right arm up towards the ceiling. Now go ahead and kickstand your left foot so that your left foot moves kind of back, and start to lift your right leg up about parallel to the floor. So this could be considered a modification of half moon pose right here. Right? And so you can play around here with maybe you gaze up towards the fingertips if you feel comfortable doing that. You might keep the gaze down and just work on the balance component of keeping your right leg parallel to the floor, right? Flexing that foot and reaching your heel as far away from your head as you can. You might also consider, can you still have that activation of your lower abdomen in this position? Right now, you don't have gravity giving you quite as much feedback. And then go ahead and turn back into hands and knees, tuck the toes, and lift into downward facing dog. You can pedal the feet if you'd like to in this first down dog. It's going to give your knees a little bit of a break. Knees can be bent or straight in down dog. The goal here is to try to lengthen the spine and let your head and your neck relax a little bit. And then next time you exhale, gently lower your knees down to the floor. Find your activation of your lower belly, hugging up into the lower abdominal organs. Extend your left leg back into half plank, so toes are tucked. Right arm reaches forward, parallel to the floor, making sure that you are kind of challenging yourself not to let your hips rotate one way or another, trying to keep the torso really clear and still and just move limbs. And then maybe float your left leg up off the ground, a little bit of a challenge. Find some breath here and balance. Next time you exhale, lower your left toes to the ground, turn the heel down to the floor so you're in a half side plank, lifting your left arm up towards the ceiling. Kickstand your right foot back so that you have a little bit less of a kind of tightrope that you're trying to balance on. And then maybe lift your left foot up off the ground into the modification of Ardha Chandrasana. And modification here does not mean this is easier by any means, right? Some actually find this to be a harder posture to balance in. Modification simply means that this is a different way of doing it than you might see in a text like Light on Yoga, where Iyengar is demonstrating. Maybe the eyes gaze upwards. See if the lower abdominal can still be supporting. And then gently exhale, come back to hands and knees, tuck the toes, and lift into downward facing dog. Slowly walk your feet all the way forward to the top of your mat so that you're standing in a forward fold, Uttanasana. And then as you inhale, come into Ardha Uttanasana or flat back. So bring your hands onto your shins, even if you can touch the floor. See if you can find that same lower abdominal hug of what's called your transverse abdominis, right? It's a stabilizer of your abdomen. And see if as you stabilize with your abdomen, can you imagine that your sits bones could reach even farther behind you and your chest, your sternum could reach forward. So you've got support from underneath and then length throughout the spinal column. As you exhale, fold back down, Uttanasana. Inhale, come back into flat back, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold back down, Uttanasana. And now this time, sweep your arms out to the side and all the way up to the ceiling into upward hand pose or Urdhva Hastasana. Feel your heels press down as the fingertips and maybe even the eyes gaze upwards towards the ceiling. And then come to mountain pose, Tadasana, arms by your sides, palms facing forward, eyes gazing softly along the horizon. As you inhale, sweep the arms out and up, back to upward hand pose. Little bit of a chest lift. As you exhale, swan dive forward. So the arms go out to the side to fold all the way down to the floor. Inhale, flat back, hands to shins, maybe the fingertips to the floor. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach the arms out to the side and up to the ceiling, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, mountain pose. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, dive forward. This would be a good place to have blocks if you have them and you'd like to use them. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sweep the arms out and up. Exhale, mountain pose, arms by your sides. Inhale, lift the arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. See if you can get a little bit longer. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back, bend the knees. Exhale, step the right foot back into a low lunge. Lower your right knee down to the ground. Come into Anjaneyasana. So the right knee is down. The left knee is bending forward, either on top of the ankle or on top of the toes, kind of past the toes. There's a couple of variations. You can choose which one you like to do, right? So you can either have the hands down and reach the chest forward, or you can start to walk the hands up onto the top thigh and press the hands down and forward into the knee to lift the chest. See if you can feel the lengthening of your right groin as you lift the chest up, and potentially take the gaze upwards towards the ceiling if that feels like your groin and kind of your front fascial line is ready for that. And then we're going to breathe here for another few seconds. Next time you exhale, bring the hands down around the front foot, tuck the back toes, straighten the back knee into a low lunge, and then start to straighten the front leg into Parshvottanasana. The front leg doesn't have to get all the way straight, right? Particularly if your hands are on the ground. For many of us, the knee won't straighten all the way. This is where blocks can also be handy. Right? If your leg does straighten all the way, really make sure that you're engaging the musculature of your quad so that you're not just locking back into your knee. Next time you inhale, come into a low lunge, bend your front knee, and then press down into your left foot to assist you stepping forward. So the right foot comes forward to match the left foot, and you're in a standing forward bend, Uttanasana. Inhale, flat back, chest reaches forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sweeps the arms out and up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, mountain pose. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, diving forward. Inhale, flat back, bend the knees, step the left foot back, low lunge. Lower the left knee down, Anjaneyasana, climbing the hands potentially up onto the right thigh and pressing the hands down and forward to lift the chest. Again, the knee could be stacked right over the ankle. You could also be moving the knee forward past the ankle, past the toes, more into a malasana style squat, where the ankle is folding deeply, the knee is folding deeply, and the hip is folding deeply. Next time you exhale, let's bring the hands down around the front foot, straighten the back leg, and start to straighten the front leg into Parshvottanasana. And so as you straighten that front leg or move it towards straight, and you're engaging the musculature and you're kind of dealing with whatever props you have or whatever props you don't have, can the back leg be a statement of strength and stability by being lengthened and being the force by which you're reaching back with, right? So you're trying to reach the heel down towards the floor, although it probably won't get there unless you've got amazing Achilles tendons. And you're also trying to not let the hips turn out too much, but there's an energetic drawing back of the pelvis from the initiation of the thigh. And then as you inhale, bend the front knee. From stepping down through your front leg, bring your left foot forward to meet your right foot and fold at the top of your mat. Inhale, flat back, chest moves forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, arms reach out and up to the ceiling, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, mountain pose. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, bend the knees, step the right foot back, low lunge. Lower the right knee. Anjaneyasana once more. This time, if you're feeling comfortable to lift your arms straight up to the ceiling, go for it. So the arms are alongside the ears. As the fingertips reach up towards the ceiling, the chest reaches up towards the ceiling. And then maybe you start to back bend a little bit. The key here is as you back bend, the breath must remain smooth. If you feel like your breath is getting caught, you've gone too far. Right? Take one more breath in. Exhale, bring the hands down around your front foot. Tuck the back toes, lengthen the knee, and then start to straighten the front leg into Parshvottanasana once more. Right? If you're someone who is able to get that front leg straight, go ahead and start to peel the toes off the ground so that you're balancing on your front heel. Couple of breaths. As you inhale, come into your low lunge. And this time as you exhale, move back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward to plank. Find a little bit of that low belly hugging. And we're going to hold this plank for 15 seconds. You're always welcome to lower the knees down to the ground if that feels more supportive. Right? 15 seconds is kind of a good place to breathe, but also to know that things are going to end really quickly. And now exhale, back, downward facing dog. Let's reach your right leg up, down dog split, keeping the pelvis square. Exhale, pull the right foot forward for your low lunge. If the foot doesn't quite get there, bring it as far forward as you can, grab the ankle, and then step the right foot all the way forward. And then come up into your high lunge, reaching the arms up towards the ceiling. Now, in this high lunge, see if you can remember back to Anjaneyasana and that lengthening up through the groin, right? As the groin lengthens, the chest can rise, and that rise consequently allows the fingertips to lift up and away from the waist. It's not that the shoulders are lifting up next to the ears necessarily, but there's length from the lats being lengthened away from your kind of center mid back. And we're balancing here and breathing and seeing that that front knee is tracking right over your kind of second or third toe. Next time you exhale, bring the hands down, low lunge. Take a breath in to prepare, and then exhale, step your back foot forward to meet your front foot and fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Arms sweep out and up as you inhale, Urdhva Hastasana, upward hand pose. Exhale, mountain pose. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back. Bend the knees. Exhale, step your left foot back, low lunge. Lower the back knee down to the ground. Anjaneyasana, reaching the arms up this time if that feels okay. You're always welcome, of course, to keep the hands on the ground or the hands on the thigh. And as you move the pelvis forward and the groin, the left groin is lengthening, maybe you take that lengthening and allow it to come up through the chest and out through the fingertips in your back bend. Now, all of that is possible because you're pressing your back shin down. You have a boomerang effect almost of, because you're pressing the back shin down, it rides up and along the torso and out through the arms. One more breath in. Exhale, bring the hands down around the front foot, straighten the back leg. Straighten the front leg, coming into Parshvottanasana, perhaps rocking up onto the heel if your knee is already straight and you feel like that feels like a good place to go. And then coming back into your low lunge on an inhale, exhale, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward to plank. This time we're holding about 20 seconds. Breathing, lowering the knees as you need to. You can also lower the knees, kind of take a moment and then come back into plank if you're working on increasing your endurance here. One more breath in. Exhale, move back, downward facing dog. Inhale, lift the left leg up, down dog split. Exhale, pull the left foot forward in between the hands. Again, if it doesn't quite get there, pull it as far forward as you can, grab the ankle, and then step the foot forward using the assistance of your hand. And then come up into your high lunge. Arms reach up towards the ceiling. Right knee tracking over the second or third toe. You might play around with the depth of your high lunge, right? Eventually, high lunge transforms into warrior one, which possibly has the front knee at a complete right angle, which is quite challenging. And then let's come back into your low lunge. So hands come down. And then as you inhale, prepare. Exhale, step your back foot forward to meet your front foot and fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach the arms out and up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, mountain pose, Tadasana. All right, let's move into sun salutation A. Inhale, lift the arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back. As you exhale, walk yourself back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward to plank. And then either lower from your plank all the way to your belly or lower the knees and then lower the chest all the way to the floor. Inhale, baby cobra, a little bit of a back bend, arching the upper spine. Exhale, fold back down to the floor. Inhale to prepare. And then exhale, move back down dog, either through hands and knees or through plank. Take 3 full breaths in your dog pose. Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then on the next inhale, rise high up onto the balls of the feet. So the heels are lifting. You're looking forward in between your hands. And then walk your feet all the way forward. Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Inhale, flat back, chest moves forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach the arms out and up to the ceiling. Exhale, mountain pose. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back. And either walk or maybe hop back into downward facing dog. Inhale, come forward to plank position. Exhale, lower to the floor, either through plank or through hands and knees. Inhale, cobra, small, medium, or large. Exhale, lower all the way back down to the floor. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, press up and back, downward facing dog through plank or hands and knees. And take 3 breaths. Next time you inhale, lift the heels, look forward. Exhale, walk forward or maybe hop forward in between your hands. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach the arms out and up to the ceiling. Exhale, mountain pose. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, dive forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step or hop back, downward facing dog. Either stay here or move through the vinyasa. Inhale, forward to plank. Exhale, lower. Cobra, inhale. Exhale, back, downward facing dog. Inhale, reach the right leg up, down dog split. Exhale, step the right foot forward in between your hands. Inhale, reach up, high lunge. Exhale, warrior two. We're going to stay in warrior two for 3 breaths. Make sure that that front knee is still over the second toe and that the back leg is really long. Arms are parallel to the floor. And you're breathing. Take one more inhale. Exhale, circle the hands down around the front foot. Step into plank pose, and we're going to hold this for 30 seconds. So again, as you're holding plank for this amount of time, you're trying to feel that lower abdomen hugging up to into the torso, and you're also checking in with yourself to see, am I in my integrity in this posture, or am I starting to compensate in some interesting ways? And is compensation something I can catch? Take one more breath in. Exhale, move back, downward facing dog. Inhale, lift the left leg up, down dog split. Exhale, step the left foot forward. High lunge as you inhale. Exhale, warrior two. So left knee is tracking over the second toe. In warrior two, your hips are unlikely squared to the side of your mat. They're probably not quite there, but your chest really should be, right? So you've got that rotation and that expansiveness from fingertip through the collarbone to the other collarbone, out the back fingertip. Breathing here, really activating down and back through your back leg. And then last inhale, exhale, circle the hands down around your front foot. Step back into plank, 30 seconds, breathing. All right, if you want a further challenge, you're welcome to slightly bend your elbows like a half to a full inch and hold that for the next 15 seconds. Totally optional. And then move back to downward facing dog. Lift the heels as you inhale, look forward. Either step or jump forward in between your hands. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach the arms out to the side and up to the ceiling. Exhale, mountain pose. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, chair pose, Utkatasana. So bend the knees, sit the hips back a little bit. Knees go forward over the toes as the hips sit back. So you've got that zigzag pattern up the posture. And you want to feel here a real sense of integrity in your spine. So it's neutral and it's supported by the abdomen. So it's neither arched nor tucked. And then go ahead and shift your weight into your left foot. Lift your right foot off the ground, hover. And then with control, or as much as you can muster, glide your right foot back into a high lunge. Land, settle, and then open to warrior two. As you inhale, straighten the front leg. As you exhale, we're going to come into triangle pose. So the pelvis tips so that you're pulling your left sit bone away from the direction your head will be going. And you're going to bring your left hand either down onto the thigh or to the shin or to the floor. Here's where a block could be super useful, or a dining room chair. If you're using a block, put it behind your foot. If you're using a dining room chair, it might be placed over the foot so that you can put your hand sort of in line or slightly behind the line of your foot. Your right arm is up towards the ceiling. And then choose where you want your gaze, right? So the gaze could be down towards the floor, which is probably a little bit easier on the strengtheners on the muscles of your neck. You could also choose to start to turn your head up towards your top hand, right? Which requires a little bit more strength to hold the head in that rotation. And if you're doing so, you want to think about bringing your chin just slightly down, like you were nodding yes, so that you don't hyperextend at the very top of your spine and put pressure there. And then perhaps float your hand off of whatever surface that your hand is on. If your gaze is up, this is a really nice way to kind of check your balance. If your gaze is down, it's a nice way to kind of be able to visualize how far away your hand is lifting. So you have that proprioception of where am I in space. Either way, take one more breath. As you exhale, come into a low lunge, circle the hands down, square the pelvis to the floor. And then lift your left arm up into a twisted low lunge. Just a nice kind of counter twist to the triangle. Take a full breath in. And then as you exhale, we're going to come into a seated spinal twist. So the left arm will actually stay up. You're going to shift your weight forward. Bring your back leg forward so that your knee comes behind your front ankle and you're going to sit down on the ground. Then your left arm reaches straight behind you, parallel to the floor. Your right arm can start to wrap around your front knee to encourage a little bit more rotation if that feels nice. And the eyes travel around to look at the back hand. On an inhale, reach both arms forward so your chest is now squared to the top of your mat. And then imagine, what would it be like to stand up without using your hands into chair pose? Like, how would you do that? Don't do it yet. Just kind of imagine, what would you need to do so that when you stood up, you were balanced? You had the strength to stand up by pushing down through your foot that's in front and maybe through your shin that you're sitting on. And then give it a shot, right? And if you're like, yep, no, then put your hands down and walk forward a little bit so that you can come into a standing forward bend. And then we're all going to meet in chair pose. Settle yourself once you've found your chair pose. And just kind of notice for yourself, what did it feel like to imagine something that you were either like, yep, I got it, or nope. And kind of notice for yourself, like, how did that feel? And when you were visualizing it, did you visualize yourself being successful, or did you visualize yourself not being successful? The beautiful thing about visualization, you get to control the outcome, even if it's hard, right? And so you might say, but what if I could, even though I'm worried that I can't do that? What if I could? It's a nice brain game. So let's do the other side. So shift your weight onto your right foot. Hover your left foot off the ground. And then slowly glide your left foot back into your high lunge, reaching your arms up overhead. On an exhale, open out to warrior two. Inhale, straighten the front leg. And then exhale, come into triangle pose, Trikonasana. Again, the pelvis tips over the front leg. The right hand can be on the thigh, the shin, a floor, a block, a dining room chair, right? Something that feels really supportive, because triangle pose is a posture of linear lines, not curves. And so when we're looking at triangle pose, we would like the spine to be not in a side bend, right? Not bowing down towards the floor. We would like the right and the left waistlines to be equally long, which is challenging when some of us really want our hand on the ground and our hips are not quite ready to let us have that. And that's fine. That's that working with desire that yoga is so wonderful for. Choose where your head placement is, so either looking down to the floor or up to the ceiling. And then start to float your bottom hand off whatever surface it was utilizing. Breathe. And then next time you exhale, come down into a low lunge, circling the hands down around the front foot, squaring the pelvis. Right arm reaches up into your twisted lunge. Left hand is on the ground. And then shift your weight forward onto your right foot. Tuck your left knee behind your right ankle and come into seated spinal twist. Right hand then reaches parallel to the floor behind you. Left arm might wrap around the front knee to help with the rotation. And you're trying to sit up on your sits bones as much as you can rather than sitting back on your tailbone, right? And that distinction is actually really important and can be challenging when props are limited or not around at all. And so being able to notice, oh, this is where I'm at, this is where I would like to be able to unweight my tailbone, could be a nice way of getting to know your body and your practice with a little bit more intimacy. And then go ahead, square your chest forward, reach both arms forward as well. Take a moment to imagine how one might get from this position into chair pose smoothly. And just visualize that. We know that with visualization, there is muscle activation that actually occurs. So visualizing is almost or maybe as good as doing the thing, especially when you have a clear sense of your movement patterns. And then go for it. Give it a shot, or bring your hands down and make your way back into chair pose. Once you arrive in chair, take a full breath in. Exhale, dive forward, Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Then if you have blocks, go ahead and grab them. Have one block underneath each hand on the highest height. Dining room chair in front of you is an awesome prop. And we're gonna come into a prep for Warrior 3. So come into your flat back with your hands hopefully on something, right? So that they're not floating quite yet. Hint. And float your right leg back about parallel to the floor. Now, this might mean that you need to bend your standing leg in order to get your right leg parallel to the floor. Totally fine. If you are bending your standing leg, make sure your knee is not buckling inward. Track it over that second or third toe that we've talked about already a little bit. And then as you float that right leg up about parallel to the floor, flex the foot so that your heel is stamping back behind you. And then see if you can find that flat back, almost plank-like quality in your torso. So the chest is moving forward. You've got that lower abdominal wall hugging up to support your back. And the arms are there to give you balance and a little bit more awareness of what's happening. If you would like to bring your right hand onto the back of your pelvis to check yourself to see if your pelvis is rotated or not, go ahead and do so. It also is a little bit more challenging for your balance. You can also choose your left hand, depending on what feels more natural. So choose a hand if you're going to do so. And then you have a few options. You can stay with your hand on your pelvis and just kind of work there. You can stay with both hands down and work there. Or you can bring the hands to Anjali Mudra prayer in front of your chest and take a few breaths here in Warrior 3. We are going to come out of this. And so go ahead and bring your left hand down to the chair or the block or the floor. Turn your right hip on top of your left hip. Your right leg is still parallel to the floor, but now your toes are facing in the same, to the right. You're going to turn your chest to the right, come into Ardha Chandrasana with your right arm up towards the ceiling. See if the standing leg can be a little bit more lengthened now. Sometimes that turning of the pelvis gives us a little bit more room to work. Of course, if you still need to have it bent, by all means, have it bent. And then play around with floating your gaze up towards the ceiling, but keep your left hand down. One more breath here in Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. And then arrive in Warrior Two by floating the right foot down and back to the mat and uprighting your torso with the arms parallel to the floor. Inhale, straighten the front leg. Reverse triangle pose. Slide your right hand down the back leg. Reach your left arm up and over. And then as you exhale, circle the hands down around your front foot. Move through a vinyasa or back to downward facing dog. So you could inhale into plank pose. Exhale, lower to the floor. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, back downward facing dog. Take 3 breaths in down dog. You can also take 3 breaths in child's pose or a different position of rest. Could be kneeling. And then over the next breath or two, start to make your way from down dog to the top of your mat into a standing forward bend, Uttanasana. As you inhale next, bring the arms out and up to the ceiling, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, chair pose, Utkatasana. Inhale. Exhale, dive all the way forward, standing forward bend. Inhale, flat back, hands on blocks, chair, floor. Float the left leg up into Warrior Three, parallel to the floor. Toes pointing down, heel reaching back. Right knee bent as much as it needs to be, and having the knee point straight forward so that it's not buckling inwards. Maybe check your pelvic placement with your left hand or your right hand. If you did this on the first side, make sure that you're kind of mimicking what you did initially. So if you're doing the same arm as leg on one side, do the same arm and leg on the other. If you're doing the opposite arm and leg on one side, then do the opposite on the other. If you chose to balance with the hands in prayer pose, go ahead, float the hands to prayer in a Warrior Three variation. And then bring your right hand down to a blocker, to the chair, to the floor. Turn your left hip on top of your right hip, coming into half moon pose, and extend your left arm up towards the ceiling. Right. Once you find the half moon pose structure, see if you can, in your mind's eye, make sure that your right kneecap is still pointing straight forward. It's not starting to turn towards the left. Maybe take the eyes up towards the ceiling if that feels like an appropriate challenge. And then float back, Warrior Two. Land your left foot down on the floor, arms parallel to the floor. Inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, reverse triangle pose. Left hand goes down the back leg. Right arm comes up and over. One more inhale. Exhale, last vinyasa if you choose. So circling the arms down, either stepping back to down dog or maybe into plank. And then lowering your plank to the floor. Cobra. Back to downward facing dog. And then finishing out with 3 to 5 breaths here. And then on an exhale, lower your knees, cross your ankles and sit back behind your feet, or alternatively, swing your feet around one side. We're gonna come to a seated position. Now, if you have access to a blanket or a towel or a pillow or anything cushiony, go ahead and grab it and sit on it. And so you want your pelvis a little bit elevated here. We're going to move toward ankle to knee pose. The ankles are both flexed. Your right ankle is going to come on top of your left knee so that you've got almost like two stacked shins. And if your right knee is floating, you can either stuff another prop underneath it, right? This is where having an abundance of props is so lovely, because you can really support your practice well. However, you may be at home and not have access to those things. And so we want to make sure that practice is safe and accessible with whatever you have. And so if you have an extra blanket or a couch cushion, can be great for this. Grab that. If you don't, you're going to bring your right shin in a cross-legged position rather than stacked. You're going to cross your right ankle underneath your left knee and come to Sukhasana. Right? In either posture, you can stay upright or you can bow forward. And so this idea of like, how do we get our hips to be free to move in a lot of different directions? That can, of course, be attained to a degree with practice. But there are some things that we really can't change, such as the shape of our bones. And so depending on how your particular bones are shaped, both how your thigh bone is shaped and oriented and how your hip socket bone is shaped and oriented, the amount of rotational freedom you have may be dictated by how you are formed. And you are formed perfectly. And so there's nothing wrong with how you're formed. What's often wrong is that we expect everybody to be able to attain every shape with just dedication and practice. And that's simply not the case. And so as you stay here and I chat with you for a moment, this is going to be my little soapbox of why props are so important and why I highly recommend that if yoga is an important aspect of your life and you're practicing at home regularly, that you invest in some decent props. And I will go through those decent props while you're on the second side. So go ahead, come on up. Switch legs. So now the left shin is either stacked on top of the right shin or the left shin is crossed in front, and you're either staying upright or bowing forward. If you are stacking that left shin and your knee is floating, or if you feel any twisting at the ankle or any twisting at the knee, you're going to adjust so that either you're moving that leg into Sukhasana and out of ankle to knee, or you're getting a pillow to support that knee, right? Something where your body feels like it can actually let go. Because when our body feels like there's a potential danger, it's not going to have the ability to let go, because that would be the body saying, cool, I don't mind if I get damaged, right? You want to make sure that you're giving the body support so that it can achieve some progress to the extent that it can with grace and compassion. And so let's chat about props. I'll put these in the notes of the video so that you have them as well. So I'm a big fan of cork blocks. Foam that a lot of studios have can be good if they're the right density, but buying blocks online can be potentially hazardous because you can't feel them. So I'm a big fan of cork blocks. They also work really well as bookends. So that's a nice bonus. So I like 3. And the reason I like 3 is that you always have 2 for symmetrical postures, and you have a third in case there is a posture you want to build up a little bit higher for whatever reason. And so I like 3. I like yoga blankets. 5 is like a blessing, at least 2. So 2 yoga blankets, 3 yoga blocks, a great yoga mat. If you don't have one, it's super nice to have and invest in a great yoga mat, and that is a personal preference. A yoga strap, also great. You can use a belt if you don't want to get a yoga strap. That's fine. A TheraBand is not the same as a yoga strap. And then bolsters are optional. We'll get to bolsters later. Go ahead, come on up. And we're going to set up in a restorative Paschimottanasana, or restorative seated forward bend. So this is where props might be super helpful. Your dining room chair can be great because you can just bow forward and bring your head down onto the dining room chair, and that's great. A block could be good underneath your forehead, or a couch cushion, again, could be good underneath your forehead. Knees can be as bent as they need to be. You could even roll up your yoga mat, put it underneath your knees right now so that you're sitting on the floor. The goal in restorative Paschimottanasana, which you can see on this video how I'm demonstrating, I've got quite open hamstrings, and so I need usually a block. This is not necessarily something that you need to aspire to. This is just how my body works. The thing I love about restorative Paschimottanasana, and it's important that your head is fully supported and that you don't feel like your neck has to engage to pull your head up, is that this is not only a stretch for your hamstrings, this is also a way to encourage the entire fascial back line to lengthen a little bit, or to have some ease potentially. It also can be a nerve stretch. And what I want to say about nerve stretches can feel really buzzy. And for restorative Paschimottanasana, I'm not looking for a really intense, I have to get through this kind of sensation. I'm really actually never looking for that in yoga. I'm more interested in the, I feel sensation. Can I stay with it? And can I actually get to know it a little bit better? And that requires probably a more like low to moderate intensity level, because if it's too intense, we're just fighting, right? And in restorative Paschimottanasana, when you learn how to prop yourself well enough and how to stay in this posture for a longer period of time, 3 to 5 to 8 minutes, you get a multi-layered release of tissue that, I will say in my experience, gives me almost a weird sense of release in my body after I've practiced it regularly. And when I say a weird sense of release, sometimes I come out of this posture and I can see clearer, or I feel like that little bit of tension that I haven't been able to unwind goes away, right? And so everyone has a slightly different experience of Paschimottanasana. What I think is really beautiful about this particular posture, when done supported, your brain has support because your head is relaxed. Your body is in a forward bend, which is a very comforting and protective shape because it is closing the soft belly in a gentle way, right? It's not exposing. And it's allowing the spinal cord to have a lot of room because you're bending your spine in a forward bend. So on that note, as you inhale, bring your right hand to your forehead. As you exhale, use your hand to help you come up to sit. Move whatever props you've got, and then slowly make your way down onto your back. Take a few moments just to be on your back with your knees bent, feet flat on the ground. And then start to make your way into happy baby. So the knees come towards the chest, The hands reach either behind the thighs, to the outer shins, or to the outer feet. And if you're reaching up towards the outer feet, your arms are on the inside of your knees, and you are bending your elbows in such a way to direct your knees to the outer torso, right? And you can imagine that the thighs could descend towards the floor so much that you would have your thighs lying on the floor on either side of your rib cage. And your knees would, depending on your torso and leg ratio, could be almost like in your armpit. And couple breaths. And then set up for Shavasana. And so Shavasana might be the legs flat on the ground with the arms extended out to the side at approximately 45 degrees away from the body, palms facing up. Shavasana may also be with your hands on your belly, as I am doing. If you need a little back support, you can roll your mat up and place it underneath your knees, or a blanket, of course. You can allow the eyes to either gaze softly up towards the ceiling or close the lids over the eyes. If you have an eye pillow, by all means, place it on your eyes gently in such a way that you can still breathe in and out through your nose. And as you come into Shavasana, see if you can allow the floor to really support your entire body. Right? We did some balance work. And so some of those stabilizers that might be really excited to assist you in not falling might still be on a little bit. And so Shavasana right now is to allow the energy of the body to say, hey, I can relax fully into the floor. I don't have to balance right now. I just get to rest. We're going to be here for 8 minutes. And if in those 8 minutes you need a focal point, you're welcome to focus on your breath. That would be considered more meditation than Shavasana. But that's absolutely fine if that's what helps you relax. Eventually, we want to make room for being able to rest in a wakeful state without a task for the mind. I will stay with you throughout this Shavasana, and so no need to set a timer. Right? If you have a watch on, go ahead and remove it and simply rest. Start to bring your attention back to your breath. Make some small movements with your fingers and your toes. Maybe rock your head from right to left. And then on an exhale, bend your knees, step your feet to the floor. Roll to one side, resting for a moment. And then on an exhale, use your hands pressing down into the floor, come up to sit and find a comfortable seat to finish the current practice. Find a comfortable seat to finish practice in. Bring the hands to the center of the chest, Anjali Mudra or prayer position. As you exhale, bow the face down towards the fingertips. Act of gratitude for taking time to practice. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from suffering. Namaste.